Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of Old Man Plays CFL Weekly Fantasy. Certainly hope conditions for football are better where the games are being played than they are where I am here. I'm in the Okanagan Valley and the smoke has rolled in from somewhere. Wildfire smoke. The lake's a mile wide and you can't see the far shore at all. It's probably down to about a third of a mile visibility and smells like you're at a campfire anytime you step out the front door. So ugly week here. Hopefully the games will go off well. Last week I had, I believe, 120.9, which was enough to get me the win over Commish KD in the CFL Podcast Fantasy League. That leaves me at 4-3, steadily clawing my way back from my 0-2 start, and I'm above 500 for the first time. I'm fourth in overall scoring in the league and sixth in actual placement of the standings, which has me in the playoffs, but not with a lot of wriggle room. So this week could be big, because this week we're all up against the league average. If I beat half the players in the league, then I'm get a win. If I'm below that average, I get a loss, and I don't feel very good about this week. I don't feel like I have a coherent plan. It's getting harder and harder to try and pick the players that you need and get them in under the price cap. Everybody who can be counted on for much of anything is about 15K. So what did I do this week? Well, looking at quarterbacks, I figured there's 4 that are left standing that are reasonable to consider as putting up pretty good numbers. And that's basically 2 out of the West, VA in Calgary and Harris in Saskatchewan, and 2 out of the East, Kelly in Toronto and Alexander in Montreal. Well, Alexander's up against Hamilton, which is one of the best defenses in the league. And Harris is up against Edmonton, which is one of the best defenses in the league. And Calgary is up against Winnipeg, which is the other one in the top 3 defenses in the league. So you look at that, and you look at Kelly, who, yes, he has been scoring less lately. Teams have been figuring him out, but he's up against that BC defense. And while a lot of folks are saying they're so much improved this last 2 weeks again, how they performed against Edmonton, I don't see it. That was just a matchup where they perform well against running teams. I think Kelly will shred that defensive backfield. I could be wrong. Certainly could be. But to me, he's the best pick this week to try and get some fairly good points. Plus, BC's got a backup quarterback in, so Toronto may take the ball away, which will give Kelly even more chances, yada, yada. So that's where I'm going at the quarterback spot. Now, running backs. Okay, so who are the big names? Ouellette, I don't know that he'll do that well against the Edmonton run defense. They've been not bad. Mills could be good against Winnipeg. When they've given him the ball, he's been very good. He's played half games a few times and gotten a lot of yardage. But will they go that route? I don't know. Rankin has been fairly consistent, except against BC. Is there any reason to think Saskatchewan will stop him? Well, they've got a good running defense, but all he has to do is break through that second level once or twice. So I think these days you almost have to take Rankin as a defensive pick. Probably a lot of people will be taking him as a captain. I'm not brave enough to do that yet, but I will be putting him in there. Which means my other running back now is going to have to be a lower price one, because I've already spent $30K on my quarterback and first running back. So, what are you looking at? Hicks out of Toronto might get some yardage. Roundtree might. But I don't have faith that either of those teams are going to run the ball consistently. Horvath out of BC, he's the backup, but he's also the short yardage guy. So I think he'll get probably every third series on the ground, and he may pick up a short yardage touchdown or two. I'm hoping on that, and he's only 5.2K. So that's going to be my other running back. Receivers, it was tough. I wanted to go with a Snead or a Philpott out of Montreal, but $15K there would have made it very difficult to get anyone else who's worth much in the way of points. So I backed off on that, and I started looking, what else could I get? Was there anyone who is relatively lower price, half the price of the big boys, and it gives me a chance? And Speaker, who's back in the lineup from Montreal last week, had a great week, just coming back with it. He's 7.7, so I put him in there. And defenses, when I went and looked to them, the next one to see what I could have left, well, Edmonton and Saskatchewan are both very good defenses, and they're both very cheap. But given the two, I think there's a better chance that Saskatchewan will maybe not pick off Fajardo, but get a few sacks against them, maybe a fumble, somewhere around there. So I'm going with the Saskatchewan defense. And that then left me basically about $22K to spend on two more, a wide receiver and a flex. Looking through it, I thought, okay, I've got Kelly. I haven't put anyone from Toronto on with him. Looked at who's good in Toronto, Polk or Coxie, either one. For whatever reason, I'm going Coxie. He felt better. And then looking at what was left, I didn't have a whole bunch left. Common for Toronto, who scored a lot of touchdowns and, maybe not as much in yardage, but he's definitely utilized by Kelly. So that's what I did. Now, I know I'm not talking about other wide receivers. You've got all of the ones at Saskatchewan, MLS Johnson and Schaefer Baker, who are up against a good Elks defense, but could get an awful lot of yardage. You look at Jalen in Calgary or Tevin Jones, who, if he has a big game, could take off. You've got Ontario Wilson in Winnipeg, who could have a big game with it. You never know with Hamilton. If Trey gets the ball away a bit, maybe Keandre Smith would be a good choice there. But all in all, I'm shying away from a bunch of that. Like I said, every week I say, be careful. These are my picks. Use them at your peril, as I say. This week especially. I don't know why. I don't feel like I've got the handle on putting together a very good team this week. But if you're interested, if you want to listen to anything that I've got to say, here's my recap. It's going to be the Riders on defense for me. Kelly out of Toronto as quarterback and captain. Rankin out of Edmonton and Horvath out of BC will be my running backs. My wide receivers are going to be Coxie out of Toronto and Speaker out of Montreal. And my flex is going to be Common out of Toronto. There it is. Like I said, 4-3, clawing to stay in the playoffs in the league. I hope I do well. Hope if you're playing at all, you do well. If you don't already, check out our flagship show, the CFL Outsiders, that drops YouTube and your podcatchers on Wednesday, usually at 4 o'clock, if my editing is anywhere near on time. And otherwise, all the stuff. Please, if you haven't yet subscribed, like, leave a comment, ratings, reviews, all that social media stuff that helps us out. And as usual, I hope if you're playing fantasy, which why else would you be here if you're not doing that? I hope if you're playing fantasy, you have a good team this week. Hope it goes well for you. Same for Pick'em if you play there. And most important, I hope we see a good weekend of football. Last weekend was it had its exciting moments, but it was a bit of a letdown. This week, I think the teams are all fairly well matched up. I guess I'm drawing on too long here. You probably just want to get to the end now that you've got the information. So that's it. Till next week, Old Man signing off.